what we do here. We have chats. And today we're going to kick off this chat discussing Jonah Hill. You know him, the actor. So he is now the latest celebrity to open up about his mental health. He said in a statement, he will no longer be promoting his films because it intensifies his anxiety attacks. So a lot of people would say, Supriya, that's kind of part of your job. You shoot the film, you go out to promote the film so people go watch the film. But what's your reaction to his statement?
Yeah, and I understand that sort of take, right? But I think we all tend to talk a pretty big game when it comes to mental health, mental wellness, but nobody, or at least fewer people, tend to put actual action behind it. And so I think it's laudable that he's putting his own mental health and mental wellness first and acknowledging the fact that he has anxiety. I'm sure it's, empowering for others that have anxiety to look at his example. But I think it's also, we were remiss if we didn't acknowledge that he's able to do this because he's already established, because he is white, he is male. If he was a young, up-and-coming, black female actress, would they necessarily be given the same sort of leeway? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting. We've spoken, I think, on the show before about our anxiety issues and about panic attacks that I've had, and I've spoken to it in front of an audience before, and it is, I think, remarkable how many people feel empowered to then share their stories of having anxiety and having panic attacks. But it's still, the thing about anxiety and panic is it never really goes away.
Right.
And you're always just kind of managing it and start trying to not befriend it, but sort of get to know it and have some coping skills and work your way through it. The times when I find it most triggering, and I think this speaks to what Jonah Hill maybe is going through, is when you feel like you want to say things and you can't say things, and or you have things to say and you're afraid they will be misinterpreted. Because let's face it, we live in a time now where anything can be clipped and distorted and taken out of context, and then the wolves come for you on social media. That didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That was not the same thing. You might have an interview in his kind of role with a junket, and then it would show on a TV show, and people might see it, but they might not. It wasn't existing forever to be distorted, to be taken out of context. I mean, I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm gonna be honest. We've had a lot going on the last few days, and I think the biggest thing is when you feel muzzled. I think it triggers a kind of feeling inside of you when you can't speak your truth. And so I applaud him for doing this. It does make me nervous though, because if so many people are in the public eye are feeling like they can't speak and
freely.
say things freely,
Yeah.
in most instances, what's happening? And I think women fear it more than men. I really do. I think there are bigger consequences for women speaking out.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I actually was meditating because before we started the show today in my office, because I have panic attacks, and talking about panic attacks sometimes brings on a panic attack, so get ready, y'all. I don't know what's about to happen. And we've had, I think, a lot of people, for many reasons, whether it's the stage of the pandemic that we're in, our job, I think we can understand Jonah Hill to a little bit of a degree. What's our job? We share a lot of our opinions, we share a lot of personal stuff on the show, and surprise to no one, we can't talk about everything we want to talk about all the time. And guess what? Sometimes we choose not to talk about things that we would want to talk about for mental health. There's a lot of stuff that I say to myself, you know what? Do I have the bandwidth today to handle the backlash on social media if I talk about A, B, C, D, E, F, G? You know what? Today I don't, so I'm just gonna back out of this conversation. It's a privilege to be able to do that, because you're right, as you said, Supriya, not everybody has that privilege.
But you are self-censoring, and that's what you're sort of getting to.
I think
too,
that
right?
erodes a certain part of you, though, the self-censorship as well. Yes, there's a case to be made of, like, you don't want to put yourself out there all the time. But don't you think that deciding that I cannot speak this because I don't feel safe to do so is something that eats away at you too?
Yeah, I think my soul could be dying.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, is that what you're saying?
This is taking a weird turn. Sorry.
Soul could be dying.
And the opposite of that is like if you are on one hand wanting to say something or speak on something, on the other hand, you might just not want to.
Yeah.
I could just want to go to the beach. And then some huge news story happens and you say to yourself, do I have to have an opinion on this? Why is it my responsibility? And if I take on that responsibility, as you said, more repercussions could happen onto me. I just want to go to the beach. Again, it's a privilege to be able to go to the beach. I get it. But I think there are some situations where women are expected to show solidarity. And the thing is that in showing solidarity, it's also a risk for women. Like, why are we always going to the women and asking for commentary by women? Like, I don't know, ask somebody else to speak up. Let us go to the beach. So it reminds me of something that Kayla Gray, who's at TSN, tweeted a few months ago. She is awesome. She's a sports reporter. She had just gone on holiday, and she has been very vocal about Black Lives Matter, about Black journalists facing criticism, about fighting for the rights of Black women. And she tweeted, she was like, she posted this video, and she was like, sometimes I don't want to have an opinion, and that's my self-care.
Yep.
But being asked to have it and then feeling pressure to have it is also not helpful to me. It's also not equality in that sense. So I think that there's that kind of resentment that builds up too, where you're like, I don't want to talk about this. So let's.
You know where you can get some more all-around great content? Our YouTube page. It's filled with all the laughs and thought-provoking chats you could ask for. So do yourself a favor, like and subscribe now.